All right, so welcome to this deep dive. And today we're looking at something that I think everyone craves, this idea of purpose and meaning in life.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got this, our daily bread devotional, and it's almost like a mini sermon each day.
Right.
It's a very bite-sized piece of inspiration from a Christian perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're not religious,
Yeah.
stick with us because we're going to kind of unpack some of these messages and look for some practical takeaways
Right.
that can really apply to anyone.
I think that's important. And what's so interesting to me is that
Yeah.
humans have always sought this sense of purpose, even outside of religion. You know, whether it's philosophy or art,
Yeah,
or even just connecting with nature,
right.
there's this need for a deeper connection.
Yeah, and this devotional jumps right into that
Yeah.
feeling.
Right.
It talks about how each day is like a fresh start.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to connect with something bigger than ourselves and, you know, beyond just the everyday hustle.
Totally. And it promises that.
Yeah.
By engaging in some of these practices, you can get this feeling of renewal no matter where you are in life.
Right, and they compared this need for spiritual nourishment
Okay.
to our need for food.
Interesting.
You know, we need food to survive physically,
Right.
but we also need something to nourish our souls.
Right.
And they even quote a verse from the Bible, Matthew 4:4,
Oh.
where it says, "Man shall not live by bread alone."
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Is that,
I mean, what do you think about that?
I love that analogy
Yeah.
because if you think about it, bread is so simple.
Right.
It sustains us. It's essential.
Right.
And they're saying we need something similar for our souls.
Right. They then introduce this idea of the bread of life,
Okay.
which is a metaphor taken from John 6:35, where Jesus is referred to as the bread of life.
Right.
So how does bread translate to spiritual nourishment?
Well, I think if we break down this metaphor,
Yeah.
bread represents something that's essential for life. Right. You know, it's sustenance, it's energy, it's vitality. And by calling Jesus the bread of life, they're suggesting that he offers the same thing for our souls.
Okay, so for someone who doesn't necessarily see Jesus in that way,
Right.
how can they relate to this idea of the bread of life?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think the devotional is trying to point to something deeper about human nature
Okay.
because a lot of us chase external things, you know, success or relationships or even just entertainment,
Right.
but we still feel like something is missing.
Like we're hungry for something more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the devotional argues that lasting fulfillment doesn't come from those things,
Right.
but from a deeper connection to something bigger than ourselves. And whether you call that God or a higher power,
Right.
or even just a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
The idea is that there's something more out there that can satisfy our deepest longings.
So how do we tap into this bread of life, regardless of our beliefs?
Right.
Does the devotional give any advice?
Yeah, it outlines 3 steps to make this daily devotion more meaningful.
Okay.
And the first one is finding a dedicated time for reflection, just like you would schedule a meal.
So being intentional with our time and creating space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a huge chunk of time.
Okay.
Even just 15 minutes can make a difference.
Right. So small steps.
Right. The second step focuses on engaging with scripture,
Okay.
which in this case is the Bible. And they encourage you to choose a passage and really meditate on it. It's about slowing down and letting the words resonate with you.
Okay. Now I know not everyone is familiar with the Bible.
Right.
Is there a way to apply this step even if you're not religious?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You could choose a passage from a book that inspires you,
Okay.
or a poem, or even just a quote that resonates with you.
All right. So something that speaks to you.
Yeah, the key is to focus on words that offer wisdom.
Got it. So we've got dedicated time
Right.
and mindful reading. What's the third step?
The third step is all about taking action.
Okay.
It's not enough to just read or reflect.
Right.
You have to put those teachings into practice.
So bridging the gap between thought and action.
Exactly.
Okay.
How can you embody this wisdom?
Right.
How can you make it real in your life?
But if we're not looking at this from a Christian perspective,
Right.
how does this idea of putting teachings into action translate?
Well, let's say you're reading a book about mindfulness.
Okay.
And it talks about being present. The third step would be to actually practice mindfulness throughout your day,
Gotcha.
like paying attention to your breath or really listening when someone's talking.
Right. Okay. So taking those concepts and making them a real part of your life.
Exactly.
So you got these 3 practical steps.
Yeah.
Finding dedicated time, reflecting on inspiring words,
Yeah.
and putting those words into action.
Right.
It sounds like a good framework for anyone seeking that bread of life nourishment. whether they're religious or not.
Totally. And the devotional doesn't stop there. It
Uh-huh.
also emphasizes communication through prayer.
Okay, let's talk about prayer.
Yeah.
The devotional describes it as a two-way conversation with God.
Mm-hmm.
And they even share a verse from the Bible, Philippians 4:6-7,
Okay.
which says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God."
Wow. It's interesting how they frame prayer as a dialogue,
Yeah.
not just a one-sided request. It's
Mhm.
about expressing gratitude, seeking guidance, and sharing your thoughts and feelings.
And in return, they say, God promises peace that surpasses all understanding.
Wow.
But what about those who don't believe in a personal God?
Yeah.
Can they still benefit from this idea of prayer?
Absolutely. Even outside of traditional religion,
Hmm.
practices like meditation and mindfulness can offer similar benefits.
Okay.
It's about quieting the mind and focusing on the present moment.
So it's not necessarily about praying to a specific deity,
Right. Yeah.
but about creating space for inner stillness.
It's like having a conversation with yourself, your higher self,
Exactly.
or even just the universe.
And there's growing research on the benefits of these practices.
Right.
Regardless of your beliefs,
Yeah.
they can reduce stress and improve focus,
Okay.
and even enhance feelings of gratitude and
Mhm.
connection.
And the devotional doesn't just encourage praying for yourself.
Right.
They also emphasize praying for others.
Okay.
Family, friends, even strangers who might be struggling.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
It's about extending compassion beyond ourselves. By praying for others, we acknowledge their humanity
Right.
and recognize our interconnectedness.
And even if you don't believe in a higher power,
Yeah.
the act of sending positive thoughts to others
Right.
can still have a positive impact.
It cultivates empathy
Yeah.
and strengthens our sense of community.
Like tapping into this collective energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be incredibly powerful. So we've talked about nourishing our souls with this bread of life,
Mhm.
creating a daily routine with dedicated time,
Right.
mindful reflection,
Yeah.
and this importance of dialogue,
Yeah.
whether through prayer or meditation,
Mhm.
or simply connecting with our inner selves.
It's amazing how this devotional,
Yeah.
while rooted in Christian beliefs, offers valuable insights that can apply to anyone's life.
Right. It's about finding meaning and connection and nurturing our souls
Absolutely.
in a way that resonates with us.
And there's so much more to unpack here.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive deeper into some of these concepts and see how
Mhm.
they can apply to your journey.
All right, let's do it.
You know, it's interesting how the devotional reminds us to actually look for signs of this, like, bread of life in our everyday experiences. Like, it encourages us to reflect on moments when we felt guided
Mhm.
or supported or provided for, even in small ways.
So like recognizing those little synchronicities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The devotional uses the phrase reflecting on God's faithfulness,
Mhm.
but I think we can broaden that idea
Okay.
to encompass any experience that makes you feel grateful or
Right.
connected,
Mhm.
or even just in awe of the beauty around us.
Like a moment of connection with a loved one,
Yeah,
or a beautiful sunset,
exactly.
or just even a feeling of peace in the middle of chaos.
Right. It's about paying attention to those moments that nourish us on a deeper level
Yeah.
and that remind us we're not alone.
And that there's something bigger at play.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this practice of reflection ties into the power of gratitude.
Okay.
The devotional encourages us to acknowledge and appreciate the good things in our lives, both big and small.
Yeah. They even quote Psalm 119.105,
Okay.
which says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path."
So it's like taking a moment to appreciate the light that guides us.
Yeah. Even if we don't always see it clearly
Exactly.
or understand where it's leading.
And there's actually a lot of research that shows the impact gratitude can have on our well-being.
Right. Like it can reduce stress.
Yeah.
You improve sleep,
Mm-hmm.
even boost our immune system.
It's a simple but powerful shift in perspective.
Right.
Instead of focusing on what we lack,
Yeah.
we choose to appreciate what we already have.
And that can make a big difference in how we experience life.
Totally. And, you know, this idea of recognizing the light
Mm-hmm.
can be a powerful tool for navigating challenges.
Okay.
Because when we reflect on past experiences where we felt supported,
Right.
it can give us strength to face current difficulties.
Like, remember, we've been through tough times before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we came out stronger.
And that maybe there's a force out there helping us along the way.
Right. And even if we don't believe in a higher power,
Mhm.
we can still acknowledge our interconnectedness and the ways we're supported by our communities,
Mhm.
our environment,
Yeah.
even random acts of kindness.
It's like we're not isolated.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
part of this larger web of life.
And there's strength in that connection.
Right. And the devotional doesn't just leave us with these insights.
Okay.
It also gives us a call to action.
Mm.
It urges us to make a commitment to nourishing our spirits daily.
So it's not enough to just think about these ideas.
Right.
We have to actually incorporate them into our lives.
Exactly.
How do we do that in a way that feels authentic?
Well, the devotional emphasizes small, consistent steps.
Okay.
It's not about drastic overnight changes.
Right.
It's about incorporating these practices into our routines.
So finding those little pockets of time throughout the day
Yes.
to connect with something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
consistency is key.
So even if we only have 5 minutes,
Yeah.
we can still use that time to nourish our souls.
Right. Make those small moments count.
What's also inspiring is how the devotional reminds us we're not alone in this. It encourages us to connect with others who share similar values.
Yeah, like finding your tribe.
Right.
Those people who get it.
Yeah.
And the devotional emphasizes that it's an ongoing journey.
Okay.
It's not a destination.
Right.
It's a process.
It's like a spiral,
Yeah.
always moving forward,
hmm
but sometimes circling back to familiar themes.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
We don't have to have all the answers.
Right.
We just have to be willing to keep exploring.
Keep asking questions.
Mhm.
Keep seeking those things that nourish us.
Exactly. And this journey isn't just for us.
Okay.
It also ripples out into the world.
Right. When we prioritize our well-being, we're better equipped to show up for others,
Yeah,
to offer compassion.
exactly.
It's like you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
We have to take care of ourselves first.
And this message of spiritual nourishment goes beyond religion.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're Christian or a spiritual seeker or just looking for more meaning.
Yeah.
These principles can apply to you.
It's about connecting with that deeper part of ourselves,
Yes.
that spark within each of us.
And it's a lifelong adventure with ups and downs,
Yeah.
but it's a journey worth taking.
That can lead us to more peace,
Yeah.
more joy.
More fulfillment.
Wow. It's amazing how this simple devotional has brought up so many profound thoughts and connections.
Yeah.
I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface
Totally.
of what it really means to nourish our souls.
It's a good reminder that even small actions can have a big impact, creating positive change in ourselves and in the world.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's resonating with you?
Yeah.
What really stands out from our exploration of this devotional?
You know, what sticks with me is this idea that we all have this longing for something more. This hunger for meaning and purpose that goes beyond just our basic needs.
Yeah.
And they use this metaphor of the bread of life to describe it.
Right.
But I think it speaks to a very universal human experience.
Yeah, and it's interesting how they connect this idea of spiritual nourishment to something as basic as bread.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how we often look for fulfillment in things outside of ourselves.
Right.
But true satisfaction comes from within.
Yeah, and they don't just leave us hanging with this abstract idea.
Right.
They give us practical steps,
Mhm.
like setting aside time for reflection,
Right.
engaging with inspiring words,
Yeah.
putting those teachings into action.
It's like we have the power to choose how we nourish ourselves.
Exactly,
Yeah.
both physically and spiritually.
And that even small, consistent efforts over time
Right.
can really add up.
I also appreciate how they encourage us to be more mindful of the light in our lives.
Right.
You know, those moments of grace,
Yeah.
connection, gratitude.
That we often miss.
It's like we need to slow down and appreciate the beauty around us.
It's like shifting our focus
Exactly.
from what we lack to what we have.
Yeah, and you know what's truly inspiring is this message. It goes beyond religion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a devout Christian, right?
Or you're a spiritual seeker. Or just someone looking for more meaning.
The key is to find those practices that feed your soul
Exactly.
and make them a priority.
It's about creating space for the things that bring you joy and peace.
And a sense of purpose.
And this journey isn't a solo one.
Right.
It's about connecting with others,
Yeah.
finding your tribe,
Building community.
whether it's through faith or a love of nature
Yeah.
or just the desire to live a more meaningful life.
Connecting with like-minded people can really help us grow
Absolutely.
and create more positivity in the world.
And As we wrap up,
Yeah.
I have a question for you to ponder.
Okay.
What feeds your soul?
That's a good question.
What brings you a sense of wholeness and purpose and joy?
And we encourage you to take some time to reflect on that.
Yeah.
What small steps can you take today
Mm-hmm.
to prioritize your well-being
Right.
and create a life that feels truly nourished?
Remember, this deep dive was just a starting point.
Yes.
A spark to ignite your own journey. Keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep feeding your soul.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.